You know, I've had this watch in a couple of videos that I did, I think almost about a year ago now, but I never actually reviewed this particular piece. And what's interesting is that I've had this for a little over 3.5 years, and it's gotten a lot of use out of it. If you're wondering how much use, the buckle is just completely gone. This particular model is by an outfit called On Time, but there's something interesting. If you take a look online at MaxiAids, MaxiAids.com, and take a look at some of their Ryzen branded talking watches, sorry about that. You'll notice that aside from the branding, a lot of them look very similar. And after doing some personal research, while I cannot confirm or deny that this is fact, the way I see it is all of the brands, On Time, Ryzen, LifeMax in the UK, they all purchase these movements and cases in bulk with custom orders for each brand. And what's even more interesting is the people that they hire to create the voices for these watches all must read off of a single cue card. Anyway, with this particular piece, you have 4 buttons and no crown. The reason is because, if we take a look here at the 6 o'clock position, that's assuming this thing ever wants to cooperate. Oh, come on. Yeah, finally. Anyway, it says atomic on the bottom, which is to say that it's radio controlled. Not unlike my others, the speaker and receiver are here in the back. And if we press this button here, the 2 o'clock button,
the time is 1:27 a.m.
4 o'clock,
Today is Monday, August 18, year 2014.
8 o'clock,
USA, time updated.
and 10 o'clock.
Alarm is off.
Now let's go through some of the features on this particular one.
Set alarm, press 10 o'clock button to set.
Now what's interesting is if I go in here and push 10 o'clock,
Press 2 o'clock button to set hour, 4 o'clock button for minutes, 8 o'clock button to confirm.
if I push 8 o'clock,
Confirm the alarm time is 6:25 a.m.
now what's really interesting about that is that if you don't want to have the alarm on, what I just did was the only way to check the alarm time. Whereas with this one that I have here on my wrist, I'm going to go ahead and push the button off camera, but I'm going to push the 4 o'clock button here.
The alarm time is 10 o'clock a.m. Alarm is off. Today is
Whoops.
Monday, August 18, year 2014. Alarm is off.
So you notice that this one went ahead and announced the time. This one did not. It'll only announce the time if the alarm is on. So it's a bit of a design difference. The other design difference with this particular piece is it's not so bad if you have the leather band, but if you have the metallic expansion band and you're completely blind, then you might have a problem. You're going to need to get a sort of a tab or something to tell you which way is up, because tactually, there's no way to tell which way is up, because the buttons are all in the same place and there's no crown, so both sides are smooth. The other interesting piece is the one that I have here on my wrist is a global watch. This one is a domestic. And what does that mean? Well, I'll show you.
Set alarm on, off, chime on, off, time zone setting, press 10 o'clock button to set
Time zone setting. Whereas with this one, now I'm going to need to, my video camera's not charged at the moment, and I wanted to get this video out while it was still in my head. So I'm going to set the phone down for a second, and I'm going to show you.
Set alarm on, off, chime on, off, global signal selection, only when you visit these countries. Press 2 o'clock button to set.
Now let me just get out of here real quick.
Set alarm, chime, press confirm.
Okay. So you notice this one said global signal selection, and this one just said time zone setting. This watch can only synchronize with the U.S. atomic clock. This one can synchronize with the U.S., UK, Germany, and Japan. And that's why I was talking about the cue cards at the beginning.
USA, time updated.
Yet USA is the only country this one will accept. This one, on the other hand, like I said, UK, Germany, Japan. So if you switch over to UK, it would say UK time updated. So these are just some interesting observations that I've made over the years. One of the other nice things about this one, though, is that with this one on my wrist, which I call the Atomics, which is the brand, you cannot manually set the voice time, which is a bit of a blunder if you decide to go to Hawaii or Alaska or Australia. You don't get signals out in those areas. As a result, you can get the face time to reflect local time, but you cannot get the voice time to reflect, which means if you're like me and you use both the face time and the voice time, you see where I'm going here. This can be very confusing. Whereas with this one,
Set alarm on, off, chime on, off, press 10 o'clock button to set time zone setting, press 10 o'clock button to set time, press 10 o'clock button to set,
and you can push 10 o'clock,
press 2 o'clock button to set hour, 4 o'clock button, 4 minutes, 8 o'clock button to confirm, 1 o'clock, 32 minutes, a.m.
and then there's one more thing.
Set alarm, time zone setting, set time, second hand alignment, press 10 o'clock button to set.
Second hand alignment. What that's going to do is that's going to force the watch to spin the second hand to just before the 6 o'clock position. And then you have to manually push the 2 o'clock button to get it to move to the 6 o'clock position, at which point it'll perform some calculations and realign the second hand. What they don't tell you in the manual, however, and I actually found this, if you look up Talking Atomic Watch here on YouTube, you will see that in a Chinese factory where this comes from, if you push and hold the 4 o'clock button, and for those of you who are entirely blind, be forewarned, you will need sighted assistance. What that's going to do is if you push and hold the 4 o'clock button, that's going to cause all hands to spin really quickly. Sort of like switching time zones. The only difference is it's going to keep spinning and it will not stop because it expects you to stop it. And the idea is you realign all 3 hands to exactly 12 o'clock. The idea being that this is the initial home position for the hands in order to synchronize with the internal time. On this one, that's very easy to do. You just hit the 3 o'clock. I'm sorry, you just hit the 3 o'clock. There was no 3 o'clock button. You just pull out the crown when the second hand moves to 12, and you turn the crown so that all 3 hands are pointing to 12. This one is a little bit more complicated, but to be honest, you really shouldn't need to reset all the hands unless you are replacing the battery, because the only kind of shock, I think, that would knock the second hand out of alignment is if you were being bumped about very severely in an aircraft during a landing with a major thunderstorm or something like that. As far as this particular piece, like I said, I've had it for 2.5 years, and aside from the band breaking on me, the watch itself still works fine. The reason I decided to go ahead, and to be honest, this one on my wrist is actually this one's replacement. The reason for that is because when I did some digging, I found out this was being heavily discounted, and some areas were completely out of stock, and from what I could tell, they weren't getting any back in. What that tells me, there's also an alarm clock these people make, the On Time brand. What that tells me, if they're heavily discounting and one of their other products is completely sold out and no question of returning, that makes me question the future of the company. So I figured better to replace it than to have to worry about expensive warranty repairs down the road. Especially considering this watch is out of warranty anyway. But no, other than that, I've had no issues with this watch. In fact, one of my subscribers, Gallagher123123, I believe has this very watch. The only difference is his has the expansion band, which is to say the metal bracelet with the spring-loaded band. There is no clasp, so that's what I'm talking about when I say expansion. But no, that's basically some observations I've made over the years and a little look at the On Time domestic talking atomic watch. Oh, and one more thing. If anybody wishes to order these overseas, forget it. It will not work in the UK, Germany, or Japan. I know I mentioned that sooner, but I wanted to clarify in case anybody overseas was curious. They also do the same thing over in the UK before I close out. They've got a very similar watch. It looks exactly the same. The only difference is instead of On Time, you see branding of either T&J, ACTIM, ACCTIM, or MSF, MSF being the letter code for the UK's radio signal for their atomic clock. If you get something under any of those brands, then it's going to be UK domestic, much like this one is US domestic. If you decide to travel internationally or you want to place an international order for one of these talking atomic watches, you've got to make sure that the watch has what I refer to as global signal selection and will work in your country. Especially something like this one where the time cannot be set manually, at least the voice time can't, because if you end up with one of these that is domestic to your country and you wish to travel abroad, you're stuck. If you're entirely blind, you are stuck, unfortunately, with one of these models. If it does not have a global signal, or you're going somewhere, even if it does have a signal selector that doesn't have one, like Australia, for instance, you're going to Australia, like I said earlier, you're stuck. So I would like to know what your thoughts are on what I've stated, not just on the watch, but also the observations I've made. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.